on visibility. Today, we're going to talk about advanced strategies to increase your visibility on eBay. And before I start with this session, I would like to make a couple of introductory remarks. The first one would be, please, if I could ask you to all go on mute, that would be super helpful. Then this session is being recorded. We will make it available after the session. We will also share the slides of this workshop afterwards per email. We will have time for questions and answers at the end. If you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to pop them into the chat. The chat, as we've seen last time, is right here. So you click on more, you go on chat, and you'll find the chat window here. Then, if there's any questions that I don't have time to answer during this session, don't worry about it. I will make sure they get answered by email afterwards. Also, please be aware that we have a WhatsApp group since 1 or 2 weeks. So you may use the WhatsApp group as well if you have any questions. So that's some of the intro remarks. Then next week, we're going to have a full session that's just going to be question and answers for the whole group. And actually, I want to ask you before next week, 17th of November, 9 a.m., if you have any questions during the week that come up relating to eBay, please send the questions in the WhatsApp group so that I can prepare some content and kind of make sure that I got the most important questions and the most important kind of brackets and the most important themes covered. Right, so I would also like to ask you guys, I haven't done that before, but just to be able to track the attendance of all participants, could I ask you to also just note your name and your company name in the chat? That would be super useful. So if you just go to the chat and you just put in name and company, right? Cool. Then okay, then one more introductory note. We will collect some feedback on the workshop. So look out for a survey that's going to be sent to you sometime towards the end of November, and there will be another survey sort of early next year. So you'll have an opportunity to give feedback on the content, and we'll be able to assess how far you've gotten in terms of learning. All right. With this, we have quite a packed agenda, so let me just move on to the next slide. All right, just as a quick recap, the objective here with this group is, so I've built a site called the Brazil Hub on eBay, which looks like this. Okay, which looks like this. And basically, this is where I would like to work with you to get your stores online. And we will kind of have a Brazil experience on eBay. So we're working together with our partner eBay on this. Basically, the idea is for all of you to be able to have a store and to be able to target international customers, notably in the United States. So just that, just as a quick recap on what the objective is. The way we're getting there is we're doing a couple of workshops now. So we've talked about pricing and shipping in October, and last time we talked about optimization. So this time I really want to focus on more advanced ways to get visibility for your products on eBay. I'm just going to repeat one thing that I usually say. The stuff that you learn in this workshop, the stuff that you learn around how an online platform like eBay works, is usually applicable to other platforms as well. So anything you're going to learn here will help you in your endeavors whenever you want to join marketplaces, whether it's Mercado Libre or Amazon at some point, or any other platform. So what you learn here about online marketplaces is applicable broadly. Cool. So anyways, we have 4 workshops. We're going to have a group question and answer session next week. And as you know, there are practical sessions going on where basically we work in smaller groups of 10. And I've already met a bunch of you in those sessions. So we work to set up a PayPal for Business account to allow us to receive payments. We set up an eBay account, and we list our first product. So those sessions have been super interesting. I've been really happy to meet some of you guys. Right, I will be working with you over the course of the next few months. So now until early 2021, and I will share with you again the links in case you haven't set up your practical sessions or the individual sessions with me, then feel free to do so. I'm actually going to share the links one more time in the chat. So so as to make sure that you have it. So here's the information, and make sure that we have the right chat. Yeah, here's the chats. So I'm just gonna copy and paste the information in here. In case you have not yet booked the practical sessions for PayPal, eBay, or a product upload, or the individual sessions with me, you can go ahead and do that using the links on the chat. Fantastic. And with this, let's dive straight into it. So last time we talked about how to optimize our listings in order to get the maximum visibility on eBay. Now this time, what we're going to talk about is more advanced strategies to boost visibility. So we're going to assume that we've done the optimization. So meaning we have uploaded a product in the best way possible. We've optimized our item title. We've used all the keywords that are necessary. We have a price that's competitive. We have a shipping time that's reasonably quick, and so we have a product that's attractive to an international customer. So now we've optimized our product, but the question is, what can we do to give this product additional visibility? Or in other words, what are the best sellers on online platforms doing to get an additional boost in visibility? Because to recap, the way eBay works and the way any online platforms work, they're nothing more than a search engine with a checkout box. And if you want to be visible and if you want to make sales, you need to make sure that you maximize the visibility of your products. So last time we briefly talked about the 3 principles of the eBay search engine, which are identification, conversion, and standards. And last time we talked quite a bit about identification. So this was about what kind of keywords to use when you upload a title, and we talked a little bit about conversion. And with that, I mean having a price that's attractive and having good kind of reasonable shipping times. Obviously, also having good pictures. We talked a little bit about that. In this session, we're going to focus more on seller standards, and we're also going to touch on advanced ways to bring your conversion up. And at the very end, I will do a quick exercise on identification again, because we had a session, a practical session, I think it was mid last week, where we had kind of an interesting discussion and a productive discussion about finding the right keywords. So so I think it's worth going over that again if we have time left. After each one of the blocks, I will open up for a couple of questions, and then I'll move forward. Right. With this, let's start on eBay seller standards or seller standards. What is seller standards? I would summarize it with, it's eBay's way to keep track of who the good sellers and the bad sellers are. And the way eBay determines whether you're a good or a bad seller is eBay checks whether you deliver against your promise. So eBay will check at your shipment time. So what kind of shipment time do you have, and do you deliver against that shipment time? So if you have 7 days shipping, have you been able to ship in 7 days? If you have 14 days, have you been able to deliver against that? The facts, like, have the products that you have shipped arrived? If they haven't, that's obviously a problem, not just for the buyer, but it will be reflected on you because it reflects on your seller standards. And finally, case is closed without resolution. That means buyers have the possibility to open a case if anything happens that's wrong. So you know, they haven't received the item, or they have received the wrong item, and the seller, so you, are not reacting. So in this case, the buyer can go to eBay and say, hey, I have a problem with this seller, please help me. And if you don't react as a seller, then that's basically a case closed without resolution. And if you have too many of these, then that also impacts your seller rating. So so why is it important to have a good standing as a seller, or a good why is it important to deliver against a promise? Well, if you don't deliver against your promise, eBay will give you the eBay will consider that you are a below standard seller, and whenever you're below standard, you will lose practically all visibility that you have in search. So it can be daunting, and it can go very, very fast. Like I'll show you in a second, but the criteria are you know, fairly strict. So you can do it a couple of times, but if you do it too much, you get to below standard. Okay, so I would like to give you a quick demo based on one seller account to make you understand a little more about those seller standards and what the thresholds are that allow you to be considered a good or a bad seller. So we're gonna move into here, and this is one seller I've been working with lately quite a bit. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into Seller Hub. I think many of you already have Seller Hub set up. And I'm gonna go on the overview tab here. You can see my sales history, I can see my listings, I can see my feedback score, and here I can see my seller level. So here, basically, let me talk you through this. So for region United States, the seller level we currently have is above standard. And the reason that is because we've delivered against our promise. Let me click on here and I'll give you the details. So transaction defect rate. So that means the item did not arrive at the customer. So far, with this seller, we've made 147 transactions. That's in the last 3 months. And of 147, there's one transaction or there's one parcel that never arrived. So we're currently in the process of investigating what happened. With this particular seller, we're using United States Postal, and we have not been using tracking. So the buyer, one of the 147 buyers, indicated that the parcel did not arrive. And that's confirmed. And therefore, eBay gives me a transaction defect rate of 1. So I can have up to three defects. Otherwise, I would fall, fall to below standard. Actually, if I have 3 or less, top rated. If I have 4 or less defects, I'm above standard. And if I have more than 4, then I would be below standard. And that's really what you want to avoid. Late shipment rate. We've also had one late shipment rate. So all in all, we've shipped 69 parcels. So what happens is we've had a couple of parcels where we combine some orders. So there could be 2 or 3 products in one order, and eBay basically looks at the individual shipments. And so we've done 69 shipments since in the last 90 days, and basically we had one that was late. And if you want to be a top-rated seller, you have to have 3% or less late shipment rate. So right now we're at 1.45%. We can have one more late shipment, and then we would not be able to be a top-rated seller anymore. To clarify, if we do have more than 3% late shipment, we wouldn't be below standard. So below standard, it would be in the red. We would still be we would still be above standard, but because shipment is considered less significant, kind of late shipment is less significant than defect, of course, but you lose your top-rated seller status, and we'll get to what top-rated seller status means in a little bit. Okay, and then we have the third one, which is cases closed without seller resolution. And so unfortunately, we have one such case, and I'll talk a little bit more about what happened here, but we have one instance where the buyer opened a case with eBay, and sort of this seller reacted too late, and eBay already closed the case and decided to refund the buyer without the involvement of the seller, and that's called a case closed without seller resolution. And we have one, and if we have 2 or more, we would fall below standard. So this is how eBay measures the performance of a seller. And just to repeat, it is really about delivering against your commitments. So it doesn't mean you have to ship like super quick, right? It just means if you say 14 days, it has to be 14 days. That's all. Okay. With this, I want to talk a little bit about what happened with this defect that we got with this buyer, and essentially, I'll show you the listing so we make it a little more clear. So the listing in question. So let me go find the listing in question actually in messages. Okay, so here we have okay, this case has been closed with a refund to the buyer. So that's the case in question. So what happened is the buyer purchased one of these face masks, and the buyer claimed that the face mask never arrived. So basically what they claimed is what's called item not received, or INR. So that's an INR case. And the problem is the seller could not prove that the item was delivered. So generally, I would always advise that you use tracking. Like whenever you ship something, especially when it's a higher value item, you should use tracking, because that's the proof that you shipped it out. And in this case, it's less of a problem if you're dealing with buyers that might not be honest. So in this case, the seller had no tracking, and the buyer claims that they never received the item. So what happens is, in this case, because we were not able to prove that we had shipped the item because the tracking number was lacking, eBay automatically decided in favor of the buyer and basically said, okay, you're saying that you didn't receive the item, we believe you, and now the seller has to refund the buyer. So essentially, eBay forced this seller, forced us to make a refund. Yeah, the reason we're not using tracking in this case You might have seen that this item, it's a mask, basically costs $3.99, and we ship it with USPS for like 90 cents. If we were to use tracking, the shipping cost would be $3.45. So it doesn't make sense as a business model. So in this case, what we've done is we have actually factored in that there might be a couple of defect rates, and we've just factored this into our price calculation. So you know, I'm really hoping that this buyer is honest. It could be dishonest, but I hope it's an honest buyer. And so what's always a good thing to do is to actually check on the buyer, because there's a thing called feedback score on eBay, and I'll briefly show you how you would do that. So if I go back to my product, I'll go back to the store, and I'll go back to the product in question. So the product that the buyer claimed they did not receive is this one, and I should be able to click on purchase history. Yeah, so I can view the purchase history. So these are all the buyers. These are all the buyers that have purchased one of these masks, and the buyer in question. So the buyer that claimed they didn't receive the mask is this one. And so what I can do is I can actually go check the buyer's profile, and eBay will tell me, okay, this buyer is based in the United States, has been an eBay member since May 27, 2009, and has 100% positive feedback. So essentially, like, this is a long time buyer, has had consistent positive feedback. So essentially, the reality is, you know, we probably we have to assume that this buyer is not like messing with the system. He's probably an honest buyer, and there was probably some sort of issue with the parcel delivery. I mean, things like this happen. They don't happen often, but sometimes they happen. In our case, it was one time in 147, and we just have to factor this in when we do our pricing. Cool. So this is a little bit about seller standards. Now, we should talk about what can we do to increase visibility through seller standards. So obviously, seller standards is hugely important. If you don't have a good standing, you don't have visibility. But is there anything you can do in order to get more visibility by kind of being a better seller? And basically the answer is yes. So you know, advice number one: always make sure that you stay above standard. If you stay above standard, you'll have good visibility. So realistic delivery times, you know, always ship on time. Don't wait too long. But that's all very clear. And then if you can, use tracking so you can prove that you have shipped the item. This way, you will be safe from any kind of fraudulent claims from buyers if you do those three things. What you can do in order to get even more visibility is you can try and get what's called top-rated seller status. And essentially, if you're a seller that's consistently delivered good customer experience, you are eligible to get such a badge. And so what this means is you have to have had an account for at least 90 days. You have to be above standard, and you need at least 100 sold items per year, and a minimum turnover of $1,000. So this is actually what I'm trying to do with this particular seller. We're right now a little below $1,000, and we've only been on the platform for quite little time. We're only just ramping up, so I think we'll get there. And basically, being top rated seller, I've talked to a couple of experienced sellers, and it's a it's a big change in terms of the kind of traffic that you get, because eBay search will always favor sellers that have top-rated seller status above all the others. Then there's a third thing that you can do in order to help you get more visibility, and that is actually working on your feedback score. So we've talked about seller standards. That's very clear. On eBay, there's also a thing called the feedback score, and that is a mechanism where the buyers can give sellers feedback for their transactions. So let me show you what the feedback score looks like. So I'm actually going to go back to the listing so you can see from a buyer perspective. So I'm going to look at this listing from the seller, and if I'm a buyer, so I will see this this listing, but I will also see the seller information here on the right hand side, and very quickly I will be able to see, okay, this seller has 26 feedback score. So that is a relatively, that is a new seller basically. And you can see the seller has 93.3% positive feedback. So if I want to know more, I can click on this, and I can basically look at what buyers say. And so the good news is, most of these feedbacks were super positive. So, I received my order quickly, beautiful item, fast shipping, just like on the photo, A+ seller, fast shipping, and so on and so forth. And then we have this feedback here, which is from the buyer that I just mentioned. So the buyer that opened the case with us because they claimed that the item was not received, and they gave us a negative feedback. And what happens when you get a negative feedback, basically your score, if you had all positive, it would be 100%. But here, we have 26 feedbacks, and of these 26 feedbacks, 2 were negative. And that means we now have a feedback of 93%. And the reality is that if you're a buyer on eBay, you do look at this feedback score, and basically the feedback score should be 95% or higher. So in this case, we have a little bit of a problem because we need to get the feedback score up again. And so the way to get your feedback score up again is every time you do a sale, what I advise is to just message the buyer and say, hey, please, could you leave a positive feedback? Because the buyers do not automatically leave a feedback like this. So anyways, so those are 3 things that you can do to kind of maximize your visibility. So I'll repeat. 1, stay above standard, so deliver against your commitment. 2, try and get the top seller badge, so if you do a little more volume. And then number 3, try to improve your feedback score, and always ask your buyers to leave positive feedback. So those are the key things you can do. I also want to add a kind of two kind of tricks, I would call them, on how this feedback score can be sort of artificially improved. And so you see a lot of sellers, experienced sellers, that simply they do 2 things. On the one hand, they use their eBay account also to buy products, and they will buy a couple of like very small things, like maybe $1 items or $2 items. And when you buy on eBay, you also receive feedback. So you can receive feedback as a buyer or as a seller. And the reality is, it is really easy to get feedback as a buyer, because all you need to do is you have to pay the money, and then you will get your positive feedback. So that's a great thing you can do when you're just starting out and you have zero feedback score. In order to get that feedback score up, you can just buy a couple of very cheap items, and that will really help, because as I said before, buyers look at the feedback score, and if you have positive feedback, it helps. The other thing you can do, if you're in a situation where you've just listed your item and you've waited, say 1 or 2 weeks, and there's no sales going on, and chances are there's no sales going on because you might have a good price, you might have good shipping times, you might have a good product, but people will see that you're a very inexperienced seller on eBay, that you're a new seller, and that might make them refrain from buying from you. And what you can do in this case is you can also just see if you have small items that you can sell. I mean, what I've seen people do is just kind of put a couple of items that they had laying around in their home, basically put them on eBay as auctions, and when they sell off, you get positive feedback. So that's a possibility to kind of get the traction going. All right, I think this closes the chapter on seller standards. Before I move to the next point about advanced conversion, advanced ways to maximize your conversion, I'll just check if there are any questions in the chat. Okay. All right. Cool. I have a question from Cynthia. How long until the status resets? Great question. So the status is being updated like every 30 days. You're being evaluated on your performance. But I will have to get back to you kind of offline on that one. What I can tell you is every month it's being evaluated. The question is, my understanding is it's evaluated based on the last 12 months of activity, but I just need to double check that. But that's a relevant, very relevant question. So let me get back to you on this one. Okay. I want to, in the second part here, I want to talk a little bit about kind of the importance of conversion for visibility. We already talked about it. Now, let's kind of recap kind of what is the conversion rate. So the conversion rate on eBay essentially is defined by the click-through rate. So the click-through rate is the percentage of visitors that click on your listing, and then the sales conversion rate. So the percentage of visitors that went to see your listing and clicked on buy. So those two elements give you the conversion rate. And why is the conversion rate important? Because the higher your overall conversion rate, kind of the more visibility eBay will give you. And eBay looks at a history of a listing and looks at what has the conversion rate been historically. So that's a little bit of theory. I think it might be useful for you to just see it in practice, to see in practice what conversion means. So, for example, I'll take the example that we've used all along. So we'll take the InnoR keratin treatment. Okay, and so I've searched for this. I got 166 results, and now I'm just scrolling through this, and at some point I'm going to click. So I'm going to click on this one. So this is click-through rate. So the click-through rate is basically off the, say you have 100 buyers that search for this term and saw your item on the screen. If those buyers, of the 100 buyers that go on to click, those are the ones that define your conversion rate. So let's say of 100 you have 4 that clicked, then your conversion rate would be 4%. And then the sell-through rate is whoever goes to look at this listing in detail and then decides to click on buy. So what can you do to improve your conversion rate, which is additional to optimizing your listing? I will show you 3 things that you can do, starting with multi-quantity listings for higher traffic and conversion. So a lot of times you will see sellers that have a lot of sales do multi-quantity listing. What is a multi-quantity listing? It's when you have a product in different variations. So in this case, we have a Chinese seller selling face masks, and you have different colors. So these would be the different variations. So so what's the interest of doing a multi-quantity listing? Essentially, if you give the buyers more choices, what happens is your click-through rate will go up. So I'll try and give you an example. I'll go to eBay and I'll say I'm searching for a cotton cloth mask, and I'll say I'm interested in African designs. So here are a couple of listings, and at some point okay. I'm actually not finding any multi-quantity listing here, but let's say I'm just searching for face mask, just like that. Okay, and I want to see it as a list. So what happens is a lot of times people are more likely to click on a listing where there's multiple variations like this one than they would click on a listing where it only shows one mask, right? So here I just have one listing, and here I basically have how many? Like 100 designs. And the reality is, like, when you have 100 designs to choose from, your likelihood to buy is much higher. So essentially, the point is, if you're selling, say you're selling, I'll take the example of crystals maybe and coffee. So if you're selling crystals, you could say I'm selling kind of very small quantities to large quantities. So you go from small to large. Or if you're selling coffee, you could say I'm selling Arabica, but I'm also selling espresso. And so anytime you do a multi-quantity variation listing, it can help with the conversion. So that's kind of a trick that you'll see a lot of advanced sellers apply. Another trick that advanced sellers apply is we have a multi-quantity listing here, and note the price of $2.99, which is super low. Like the average selling price for masks is way more. It's about $6 to $7, and here it only shows $2.99. Now, if you look through this in more detail, you'll find out that actually the masks, they're actually $7. This one is $7. So all the masks are actually $7. But what the seller did is they included, as part of the multi-quantity listing, they included just a lanyard, and just this part of the mask costs $2.99. And the interest of doing this is, what eBay will do is eBay will take the $2.99 as the lowest price, and the $6.99 as the highest price. And essentially, because your lowest price is relatively low, you will get more search visibility. So this is a great trick, especially if you, for example, again, if you're selling kind of commodities like coffee or something, you can actually have a sample of maybe 20 grams, that's like very, very cheap. But then you can go up to like 2, 3, 4 kilos, 5 kilos, which is where you really make your money. But this just allows you to get like much more visibility. So that's how multi-quantity listings can help you, and we will discuss in the practical sessions and individual sessions on how this can help you. Then let's talk a little bit about promotional tools before we close this off. I'll give it another 5 minutes, and then we can go into questions and answers. I want to talk a little bit about promotional tools, which also allow you to stand out with a more attractive price without losing anything, without losing margin. And what we'll start with is order discount. So let me give you, let me show you how an order discount works. Essentially, an order discount is when you give back the savings that you have from shipping costs, when you give that back to the buyer. So I'll make an example. The example I'm going to make is the face mask. So we're going back to kind of our cloth face mask product. Just gonna call up the product quickly. It's here. Okay. So I'm looking at this this product. So basically, what I'm saying is, if I have a single mask, let's say that our price is $2.70 with everything, with kind of all the fees included, and I have a shipping cost of 90 cents, which is what we established before. So my cost, my selling cost is $3.60. Now, if I sell 2 masks in the same envelope, so the cost per mask is still $2.70, but now my shipping cost has just been lowered by half. It's 45 cents now. And so my overall cost per mask is $3.15 if I sell 2. And same thing if I sell 3, the cost is still $2.70, but now my shipping cost has been divided by 3. It's only 30 cents. And the cost for the mask, for the individual mask, is now $3. And this works as long as your shipping cost stays constant. And you know, for most shipping carriers, there are some buckets of rates. So between 20 grams and 100 grams, it's the same cost. Between 100 grams and 500 grams, and then between 500 grams and 2 kilos, it's the same cost. So in that instance, it makes sense to it gives you the opportunity to basically give back the shipping savings to the customer. And in our case, the saving would be 13% if a buyer buys 2, and it would be 17% if a buyer buys 3 of that piece. Now, let me show you how you set that up. So on eBay, you can basically go into your seller hub, and then there's a tab called marketing here. And you can go into promotions. Everything that I'm showing you here, we can discuss in detail in the individual sessions. So, and you can click on create a promotion here. There's a couple of options here that I'm not going to go through here, but the one that I do want to highlight is order discount. So I'm going to click on order discount, and it's going to let me do a couple of things. What I'm interested in is I want to do a quantity promotion. So I want to say I'll give you an extra, how much was it? 13%. So I'll give you an extra 13% discount if you buy 2 or more items, for example. And then I can go ahead and select the items in question. So I'll go ahead, I'll select items, and I'll say that I want it to apply to all the products that I have in stock. I can confirm my selection. Okay, just double check it. Okay, I can save and review. And then basically I can give it a name. So I can say special offer from Kangadelic Fashion, for example. Fashion. And that's it. And then I launch it. And the way it looks to the buyer is like this. Let's say I go to this mask, and basically I can see now this field here. So basically I get an extra discount if I buy more items. So that's one way to kind of artificially bring your, or to actually bring your price down without losing any of your margin. So that's order discounts. And then finally, I'll show you two more things that have really helped quite a bit. There's a thing called best offer, and there's a thing called social media, actually. So best offer is basically when you allow your buyers to make you an offer. So say you're selling a product for $189, but you know that you have a really good margin on it, and you're actually able to sell it for 170 or even 165 and still make money. Then you can do what's called allow sellers to make an offer, and this button here will appear. And the way to set it up is you can go into your listings, and you can basically click on sell it faster and say add best offer. And so right now we've already added to all these items, but essentially this is a really easy way to get more visibility in search, because eBay will for the eBay search engine, your listing will be more attractive because it's potentially a lower price, and you are also completely safe. So you don't have to accept any offer. So, the buyer may come to you and say, okay, I'm willing to pay 170, and you can say no. So you can always decline offers. Hence why best offer is something I always advise people to use. Okay, and then finally, social media. We're not going to have time to cover this in detail. I think it's something we can talk about in individual sessions. We've ran a couple of campaigns with influencers. We've ran campaigns on social media in some of the projects I've done, and I would say it's not necessarily easy. It's time consuming, but it can really pay off if you do it right. So if this is something that you're interested in, then this is something I'd be happy to talk about in the individual session. Okay, just to close this one off, eBay gives you the possibility to just share items on social media. So you have these social media buttons up here, and it just allows you to just add it to your feed and get some more organic traffic into your listings. And what this does is it basically gives you more visitors, and more visitors means a higher kind of a higher click-through rate. So what eBay will see if you have more visitors coming in onto your listing, and your amount of searches that you appear in stays constant, then what happens is essentially your click-through rate goes up. So that's the interest. So there's two potential interests of sharing your products on social media. The first is that people on social media will come to the product and buy it. And the second one is that actually by doing this, your product within eBay will get more visibility. Right, so I think I've talked enough. Let's go see if we have a couple of questions in the chat. Okay, we do have a couple of questions from Cynthia. Can we set up discount coupons for customers? Yes, the answer is yes. We can do that, and I'll be happy to show you how to do that in the individual session. Second question from Cynthia. What I mean is coupons for influencers to get percentage of sales. Yeah, so basically you can create a link where you can choose what the discount is, and you can choose who you share this link with. So so yes, you can do that. Then a question from Andrea. The way to decline the offer from the buyer is automatically or by email. So the way to decline the offer is let's see if I can show this to you. Let's see if we have an offer. Do we have any offers? No, we currently don't have an offer, but let's find out. Okay, so essentially it would go through the eBay, not the messenger, but there's this best offer tool. So you will get a message from the buyer saying, okay, I want to offer this, and then you can directly react, and you can just say decline offer. It's one click. What you can do as well is you can tell eBay to automatically accept or automatically decline offers. So in this case, you can say, automatically decline any offer that is 15% lower than my normal price. And then you don't have to worry about it when it's kind of really lowball offers. And you can react to it by message if it's an offer that's interesting. Okay, and then we have another question from Catherine. Can I list on Instagram store? I'm not sure if I understand the question. I think this is maybe something we can also talk about offline. What you can do is you can always link from your social media to your online store. That's always possible. So yeah, let's talk about this offline. Cool. So we have 1 minute left, which is good timing. So in terms of next steps, next week we will have a Q&A session. Then, as I said, make sure if you haven't yet to book your practical sessions, individual sessions, and before we talk in the individual session, it would be great if you can think about the first product that you want to list, which is what we're going to do in the first exercise. So with this, we're at the end of this workshop number 4. I look forward to seeing you guys again on the 17th. And for those of you who have practical sessions today and on Thursday, I really look forward to seeing you there. And with this, I wish you a wonderful morning and speak to you very soon. Thank you.